The house on Willow Creek Lane smelled like cinnamon and nostalgia that morning, the kind that pretends to be warm but hides the chill underneath. Noah Whitman had driven 7 hours through sleet to get there. The Christmas wreath still hung on the front door, though it was already mid-January, its red ribbon frayed from too many winters. He paused for a moment, hand hovering over the doorknob, before stepping inside. Finally, his mother, Diane, called from the kitchen. "We thought you weren't coming." Her voice had that mix of relief and irritation he remembered too well. The television in the living room blared with a football game. His father, Richard, half watched it while scrolling through his phone. On the floor near the fireplace, his younger brother, Ryan, laughed with their golden retriever, tossing a squeaky toy back and forth. Same house, same scene, like time had politely decided not to move on without them. Noah smiled, though his chest felt tight. Traffic was bad. "Sit, sit," his mother said, waving him over. "We waited to open gifts until you got here." That last part warmed him, until he saw the pile of open wrapping paper behind Ryan. Apparently, waited meant mostly waited. Diane handed Ryan a box the size of a small cooler. "Here's the big one, sweetheart." Ryan tore into it. Inside lay a gleaming watch, silver face, black leather strap, engraved initials. "Whoa, Dad, the Omega I wanted." His father grinned. "Only the best for you, champ." Ryan slipped it on, admiring his reflection in the window. "It's perfect." Noah's fingers curled slightly around his coffee mug. He'd worn the same watch for 9 years, a graduation gift to himself. Then Diane turned toward him, smiling. "And here's yours, honey." She passed him a small package wrapped in red foil, light as air. Inside was a plastic coin bank shaped like a pig, the kind sold in dollar stores. The price tag, $1.99, still clung to the bottom. He blinked. "Open it," she said eagerly. He unscrewed the stopper. 2 crisp $1 bills fell into his palm. "It's for your future house fund," Richard said. "You've always been the responsible one. Thought we'd help you get started." Laughter followed, gentle, dismissive, unthinking. Noah smiled anyway, that old, rehearsed smile he perfected over the years. "Thanks. It's thoughtful." Ryan looked up from his watch. "Don't spend it all in one place, bro." Everyone laughed again. The sound filled the room, loud enough to drown out the silence behind Noah's ribs. Later, when the gifts were done and dinner dishes clattered in the sink, Noah slipped outside onto the porch. The cold air bit at his face, grounding him. He could still hear Ryan's easy laugh through the window. He tried to remember when it had started, this quiet separation between them. Maybe the summer Ryan won his first sports medal, and their parents called him the pride of the Whitmans. Maybe before that. He learned early that love in their house came in limited portions. A creak of the door interrupted his thoughts. Ryan stepped out, still wearing his new watch. "You okay, man?" "Yeah," Noah said. "Just needed air." Ryan leaned against the railing. "Mom told me about your promotion. Senior structural engineer now, huh? That's awesome." "Thanks. You should have told us sooner. Dad would have been impressed." Noah smiled faintly. "I did tell him. Last month." "Oh." Ryan looked away. Guess he forgot. Of course he had. Ryan kicked at the snow. Awkward. "Look, I know sometimes it feels like they treat me different." "It doesn't feel like it," Noah said gently. "They do." Ryan opened his mouth. "Close it again." "Yeah," he admitted softly. "I guess they do." They stood there in silence until Ryan went back inside, leaving Noah alone under the cold porch light. He looked down at the piggy bank in his hand, ridiculous, pink, smiling. $2 inside. That was his worth here. $2. He exhaled long and slow, and for the first time in years, he felt something shifting, a decision forming quietly beneath the ache. The next morning, Diane fussed over Ryan's breakfast while Noah poured himself coffee. "You're not eating?" she asked. "Not hungry," he said. "You never eat properly. That's why you look so thin." Ryan laughed. "He's fine, Mom. He's an engineer, not a linebacker." Noah smiled absently. "Yeah, I'm fine." Diane reached into her purse. Before I forget, can you transfer $200 to my account today? The cabin's electric bill came in, and your father's card's maxed after the watch. Sure, Noah said automatically. Thanks, sweetheart, she said, already turning away. He looked at her back. The same woman who never missed Ryan's soccer games, but once forgot to pick him up from a science fair where he'd won first place. He had stood outside that middle school for an hour before calling a cab with his own prize money. That memory returned now like a bruise pressed too long. By evening, Noah's decision solidified. He packed quietly while they watched TV downstairs. Old sweaters, work documents, the wooden box that held his first blueprint. A design he'd drawn at age 12 for a bridge made entirely of recycled steel. Richard had laughed then, too. Nice doodle, son. Maybe your brother can drive across it someday. He left the laughter where it belonged, behind him. At 3 a.m., he carried his suitcase to the car. The night was calm, the world asleep. He paused only once, glancing back at the house glowing faintly under the streetlight. For a heartbeat, he almost went back. But then he remembered the piggy bank. He placed it on the porch railing and whispered, "Keep the change." By the time dawn touched the highway, he was halfway to California. His phone buzzed. Mom. He hesitated before answering. "Noah, did you pay the electric bill before leaving?" "Yeah." A pause. "Good. Your father was worried." That was all. "Noah, where are you? No, are you okay?" He hung up gently, watching frost melt down the windshield. The road stretched endless ahead, gray, quiet, open. At noon, he stopped at a diner off the interstate. His college friend, Lena Torres, had texted earlier, "Come to San Francisco. Spare room's yours. No rent, no questions." He'd almost said no, but the thought of driving without destination felt like walking on air with no ground to land. He typed, "On my way." That evening, he reached San Francisco. The bridge lights shimmered like constellations as he crossed into the city. For the first time, the word home didn't mean the Whitman house. It meant wherever peace waited. Lena opened the door in sweats, eyes widening. "You actually came." "Yeah," he said. "Hope that's okay." She smiled. "It's more than okay. Come in. You look like you've been running from ghosts." He stepped inside. The apartment was small, warm, alive. Plants in jars. Books stacked everywhere. It smelled like coffee and possibility. "Stay as long as you need," she said. No strings attached. He almost laughed. The phrase sounded foreign. For years, love had always come in conditions, expectations, guilt. But here it was simple. That night, lying on her couch under a soft blanket, Noah stared at the ceiling and whispered into the dark, "I think I'm finally free." The silence that answered didn't feel empty. It felt sacred. The first morning in San Francisco was painted gold. Light filtered through gauzy curtains and landed across Noah's face, soft as a new beginning. For a long time, he just lay there, listening to the city hum, distant horns, gulls crying, a coffee grinder from a nearby cafe. It was the first morning in years that no one was calling his name to fix, arrange, or send money. He sat up slowly, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Lena had left a sticky note on the table. "Coffee's in the French press. Job board links on the counter. Proud of you for leaving. L." He smiled. A real one this time, not the polite stretch he learned to wear home. Days unfolded in gentle rhythm. He spent mornings at a co-working space downtown, updating his portfolio and applying for engineering positions. Afternoons, he walked the city, through parks, along the bay, anywhere his feet led. He started to notice small things again. The warmth of sunlight through his jacket, the laughter of strangers in cafes, the freedom in breathing without waiting for judgment. One evening, Lena came home carrying 2 bowls of ramen. "You survived another day in the wild," she teased. "I even talked to a human," he said. "A recruiter. Impressive. Did you manage to sound like one?" "Barely." They laughed, easy and unguarded. He hadn't realized how much he missed laughter that wasn't at his expense. A week later, he got an interview at Bergman and Low Engineering, a mid-sized firm known for sustainable infrastructure. He wore his best suit, the same one he bought for his father's retirement party, which he ended up not being invited to because Ryan had friends over. The manager, a kind-eyed woman named Harper, asked, "What made you choose structural design?" Noah hesitated. "I like things that hold weight," he said finally. "Things that stay standing no matter what's built on top of them." She studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. "You start Monday." That night, he and Lena celebrated with cheap takeout and expensive joy. To beginnings, she toasted. He lifted his glass. To not settling for $2 anymore. The therapist. It was Lena's idea. "You've been holding it in too long," she said one night, scrolling through her phone. "You don't just leave a family like that without unpacking it." "I'm fine," he said automatically. She looked at him over her mug. "You always say that. It's your armor. Doesn't mean it's true." He didn't answer, but 2 days later, he was sitting in a softly lit office that smelled faintly of vanilla and sage. Dr. Alina Grant. The therapist introduced herself. Her tone was warm, no judgment, no pretense. "Tell me what brings you here." He almost said, "I don't know," but what came out instead was, "I'm tired of being the reasonable one." Dr. Grant nodded. "The one who stays quiet?" "Yeah, the one who keeps everything running so nobody falls apart. Except me?" He told her about Ryan, about the $2 piggy bank, about the years of being a dependable son, about the guilt that came every time he wanted something just for himself. When he finished, Dr. Grant said softly, "You were taught that love is earned, that you have to be useful to deserve it." The words hit harder than he expected. He looked away, blinking fast. She continued, "When someone grows up that way, silence becomes survival. But silence is heavy, Noah. You don't have to carry it forever." He didn't reply, but something in him, small, buried, exhaled. Over the next months, therapy became a ritual. Every Wednesday evening, he sat across from Dr. Grant and untangled memories like knots in a rope. The time he'd gotten into college with scholarship and his father had said, "Good. Saves me money." The day his mother forgot his 25th birthday, but sent Ryan flowers for landing an unpaid internship. The way his phone always lit up only when someone needed help, not when they missed him. Each story peeled away a layer of numbness. "Have you ever told him how that felt?" Dr. Grant asked one session. "No," he said. "It wouldn't change anything." "Maybe not," she said, "but it would change you." Letters never sent. By May, his new job was stable. His designs were praised, his ideas sought out. Harper often said, "You think like an architect of people, not just buildings." At home, Lena noticed him smiling more. He'd started cooking again, painting small sketches of bridges and cityscapes. He looked alive. One night, he sat at his desk and opened a blank document. Without overthinking, he began to write, "Dear Mom, I used to believe if I kept proving myself, you'd see me. But maybe you saw me all along, just through the lens of what you needed me to be. I was a reliable one, because someone had to be the caretaker, the helper, the adult in a room full of children pretending to be parents. I'm not angry anymore, just tired. I hope you're okay. I really do. Noah." Then another, "Dear Dad, I stopped trying to make you proud years ago. I just wanted to be known. I'm building something now, not for your approval, but for my own peace. I forgive you, but I'm not coming back to who I was." N***. He never sent them, but he slept deeply that night, as if some unseen weight had finally lifted. When the past calls, summer arrived. The city felt alive, golden. Noah found rhythm, work, therapy, weekends at the pier with Lena, and new friends. Until one Sunday morning, his phone buzzed. Dad. His stomach tightened. He hadn't spoken to either parent in 6 months. He let it ring. It stopped. Then a text came. "Your mother's in the hospital. Call me." The world blurred for a moment. He called immediately. Richard's voice was older somehow. "She fainted last night. They're running tests. It might be her heart." Noah's throat closed. "Is she okay?" "They're keeping her overnight." I'll come, he said. Silence. Then, that's not necessary. Noah blinked. What do you mean, not necessary? I just thought you should know, Richard said. Ryan's handling things. Of course he is, Noah muttered. After hanging up, he sat still for a long time. The urge to rush home, to fix, to be responsible, it roared through him like a reflex. But Dr. Grant's voice echoed in his mind. You don't have to carry it forever. He took a slow breath. Then another. He texted Ryan directly. Heard about Mom. How's she doing? Ryan replied within minutes. She's stable. It was low blood pressure. She'll be okay. Glad to hear. Tell her I'm thinking of her. He hesitated before adding. And tell Dad, too. Then he set the phone down and went for a walk. The ocean was wild that evening, waves colliding like memories. He watched the sun sink, and for the first time, he didn't feel guilty for staying where he was. Healing isn't always dramatic. Months passed. His parents called once, then twice. Slowly, the silence between them thinned. When he spoke to his mother again, her voice was softer. You sound happy, she said one evening. I am, he replied simply. That's good, she said, and for once, she didn't ask for money or favors. He didn't tell her where he lived or how his work was going. He didn't need to. Some distances are meant to stay, not out of anger, but peace. One Sunday, while cleaning, he found a piggy bank tucked at the bottom of his suitcase. He had brought it without realizing. He turned it over in his hands, smiling faintly. Then he reached for his wallet and slipped in a single $100 bill, not as bitterness, but as closure. He whispered, for everything I used to think I wasn't worth, and placed it on the windowsill, where the sunlight caught its cheap plastic shine and made it beautiful. The invitation. In October, an envelope arrived, thick cream-colored, with embossed gold lettering. Ryan and Elise, wedding invitation. Noah stared at it for a long moment. He'd missed birthdays, holidays, calls. But a wedding felt different. It felt final. He texted Lena. What do you think? Her reply came fast. Go if it's for you. Not for them. He closed his eyes and thought of the boy he used to be, waiting on the porch for a mother who forgot, smiling through every bruise and neglect. Then he packed his bag. The drive back home felt longer than he remembered. The highway stretched endlessly under a pale sky, and every song on the radio felt too heavy with memory. He had left that town years ago, chasing the silence that came from being unseen, and now he was returned to face the ghost that silence had grown into. The trees along the roadside had begun to shed their leaves, thin, golden, fragile. He wondered if healing happened the same way. Slowly, one layer at a time, until all that was left was what could finally breathe again. When he pulled into a familiar neighborhood, he didn't stop at the old house first. Instead, he parked near the small park where he and Ryan used to play basketball until dusk. The hoops were rusted now, paint peeling, the same worn court where they'd laughed and argued about everything and nothing. He sat on the bench, watching the wind scatter dry leaves across the asphalt. Somewhere deep down, he could still hear their voices, his brother calling him too soft, and himself pretending not to care. That was always a dynamic, one shining, one shadowing. By the time he reached the house, the sun had dipped behind the roofs. The gate creaked the same way it used to, that thin metallic groan that once signaled coming home. His mother was on the porch, trimming plants that had long outgrown their pots. She froze when she saw him, pruning shears halfway in the air. Then her face softened, lined with disbelief. Noah, she breathed, almost like the name itself carried a weight she hadn't lifted in years. He gave her a small smile, the kind that didn't hide his exhaustion. Hey, Mom. She stepped closer, hesitated, then pulled him into an embrace. It felt awkward, too tight, too sudden, but he didn't pull away. She smelled of soap and the same jasmine lotion she always used. For a moment, he let her hold him, and when she stepped back, her eyes were wet. You came, she whispered. I didn't think you would. I almost didn't, he admitted. Inside, the house was both familiar and foreign. The same furniture, the same photographs on the walls, except now, the glass frames were slightly crooked, and time had yellowed the corners. He paused in front of one. Ryan and Elise, smiling at the engagement dinner. His mother had displayed it in the center of the hallway, the same place where his graduation photo used to hang years ago. He noticed it was gone now, probably tucked away in a drawer somewhere, collecting dust. "Your father's out picking up guests," his mother said, trying to sound casual. "He'll be happy to see you." Noah nodded, though he wasn't sure happiness was the right word. They sat in the living room, her talking about wedding preparations, flowers, colors, catering, all the small things people cling to when they don't know what else to say. He listened quietly, nodding in all the right places. When the silence finally settled, it came softly, almost kind. "I heard you move again," she said. "You never stay long anywhere." "I like new starts," he said. "They don't come with memories." Her lips parted, but she didn't respond. There was a long pause, the kind that feels like truth is standing at the door, waiting to be invited in. "Your brother asked about you," she finally said. "He didn't know if you'd come." "I didn't either," Noah said, "until this morning." When his father returned, the atmosphere shifted slightly, the heavy quiet replaced by polite warmth. His father's hair had thinned, and his voice had softened with age. He shook Noah's hand longer than necessary, his eyes carrying a mixture of pride and guilt that neither could name. At dinner, conversation floated easily at first, about the city, work, small details of life that sounded safe. But safety never lasted long in that house. It cracked under memory. His mother mentioned the rehearsal dinner, her tone light. Everyone will be there, even Aunt Marie's flying in. Ryan's name sat between them, like an uninvited guest. Noah set down his fork and met her eyes. "Does he want me there?" he asked. She hesitated, then looked down. He didn't say no. It was enough. It said everything. Later that night, Noah stood by the window in the old guest room. The street outside was silent, the sky cloudless, and the air thick with the faint hum of crickets. On the nightstand lay a box he hadn't opened in years, one his mother must have kept. Inside were fragments of a boyhood he'd almost forgotten. A broken toy car, a birthday card written in his father's hurried handwriting, a photo of him and Ryan on their bikes, sunburned and laughing. He traced the edge of the photo with his thumb, feeling the sting of what was lost, not because of one moment, but because of 1,000 small ones that had chipped away at love until it was unrecognizable. He didn't sleep much. The next morning, the house buzzed with voices, relatives, laughter. Ryan arrived late, looking sharp in a navy suit, his fiancée radiant beside him. For a second, when their eyes met across the room, something old and brotherly flickered. Recognition, hesitation, then defense. "Noah," Ryan said, walking up, "didn't think you'd actually come." "I almost didn't," Noah replied, voice calm. Ryan chuckled awkwardly. "Well, glad you did. Big day tomorrow." "Yeah," Noah said softly. "It is." Elise smiled politely, sensing the unspoken history, but staying quiet. When she excused herself, the silence between the brothers deepened. "You still angry?" Ryan asked after a while. Noah looked at him. "I don't think I am. Just tired." "Tired of what?" "Trying to be enough," Noah said simply. Ryan's expression faltered, the practiced confidence slipping. "You were always enough, Noah. You just kept your distance." Noah smiled faintly. "Sometimes distance isn't a choice. It's survival." Ryan didn't respond. The weight of years hung between them, years of misunderstanding, rivalry born of uneven love, the invisible math of favoritism that children never stopped trying to solve. That night, after the guests left, Noah found his mother sitting alone in the kitchen, hands folded, eyes distant. He sat beside her quietly. The house was finally still. "I saw the picture," he said, "the one that used to be mine." She blinked, confused at first, then sighed. "I didn't mean to take it down. It just happened when we put up the new ones." He nodded slowly. "It's okay. I stopped needing proof a long time ago." Tears welled in her eyes. "You were never less loved, Noah. I just didn't know how to love you the way you needed." He looked at her for a long time. This woman who had been both his comfort and his ache. "I know," he said finally. And I think I've spent most of my life trying to understand that. They sat there, side by side, saying nothing more. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was real. It was enough. When the morning came and the wedding music filled the garden, Noah stood at the edge of the crowd, half in the sun, half in shade. Ryan laughed somewhere near the altar, their mother's eyes glowing with pride. And for the first time, Noah didn't feel like an outsider. He didn't feel forgotten. He simply existed, quietly, completely, and without apology. He slipped his hands into his pockets, breathed in the scent of jasmine and champagne, and let the moment wash over him. Somewhere deep inside, the ache that followed him all his life loosened. Not gone, but lighter, easy to carry. He stayed until the vows ended, until applause filled the air. Then he walked away slowly, down the path lined with white roses, sunlight breaking through the clouds like a promise. This time, he didn't look back. He arrived the morning of the wedding. The sky was overcast, but gentle, like it couldn't decide whether to rain or let the sun through. The venue was an old vineyard outside the city, the kind that smelled of wet soil and lavender. Rows of white chairs curved toward an arch wrapped in pale roses. People were laughing, taking pictures, brushing petals off their suits. Noah stood at the edge of it all, suitcase in hand, his tie slightly crooked. He hadn't worn one in years. It felt strange, like dressing for someone else's story. He watched Ryan greet guests with that easy confidence he'd always had, the kind that made everyone feel like they mattered. Elise looked radiant, her laughter floating like wind chimes, her hair caught in the sunlight. For a moment, it all felt like a painting hung in a museum he didn't belong in, but he didn't leave. When Ryan finally saw him, something flickered across his face. Not surprise. Exactly. More like recognition of an old ache resurfacing. He walked over slowly, his grin cautious. "You came," he said. "Yeah." Noah replied, forcing a small smile. "Didn't think I would." Ryan's eyes softened. "I didn't think you should, but I'm glad you did." They stood there for a while, not talking, just breathing the same air for the first time in years. Later, when the ceremony began, Noah sat in the back. The vows blurred into something distant. Words about forever, love, forgiveness, and starting anew. He stared at the horizon instead. A beam of sunlight broke through the clouds, landing right on the arch as they said, "I do." It felt too precise to be an accident. For the first time in a long while, Noah didn't feel bitterness tighten his chest. He just felt tired, deeply, quietly tired, like a storm had finally spent itself. After the ceremony, people drifted toward the reception. Music hummed softly under strings of warm light. Laughter, glasses clinking, a child chasing bubbles. Life happening without weight. Noah stood by the edge of the vineyard, near the fence where wildflowers grew through cracks in the wood. He touched one, yellow, soft, trembling with the wind, and thought of Lena's words. "Go if it's for you, not for them." He realized then that coming here wasn't about Ryan or Elise. It was about finally facing the version of himself that kept waiting to be chosen. Elise approached quietly. She held her bouquet loosely, petals brushing her wrist. "Noah," she said, voice hesitant, "I didn't think you'd actually come." He smiled faintly. "Me neither." She looked at him, really looked, with that mixture of gratitude and guilt that only honest people carry. "I want you to know I never meant to hurt you." He nodded. "You didn't. Not really. We were just trying to fix what broke us." She exhaled, as if those words had been waiting years to exist. "He's different now. Calmer." "Good," Noah said softly. "You deserve that." A pause stretched between them, gentle, not heavy. Then Elise reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded photo. It was from their university days. The three of them on a park bench, half laughing, half serious, Ryan's arm thrown over both their shoulders. "I kept it," she said. "Thought maybe you want it back." Noah looked at it for a long moment. The faces in it felt like ghosts, younger, reckless, unfinished. He shook his head. "Keep it. That's who we were. Let it stay with you." She nodded. "Thank you." He turned to leave before the music swelled again. The vineyard light shimmered behind him like a constellation just out of reach. Noah spent the night in a small inn nearby. The room was simple. White sheets, a single lamp, a window overlooking a field that glowed silver under the moon. He set his bag down and opened the window. The air smelled of wet grass and faint smoke from distant cottages. He sat on the bed and looked at his hands, the same hands that once shook with anger, built walls, wrote unsent letters. Now they just rested, still, unburdened. He took out his phone. A message from Lena blinked on the screen. How did it go? He typed slowly. Quiet. Strange. Good. Maybe. Then added after a pause. I think I'm done waiting for people to come back. She replied with a single heart. That was enough. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling the vines. The moonlight caught on the glass of the window, scattering into soft reflections on the wall. Noah lay back, eyes open, tracing the shifting light like it was a language he was finally beginning to understand. He woke early the next morning and went walking through the empty vineyard. Mist hovered low, curling around his legs as he walked. The rows of vines stretched endlessly, glistening with dew. The earth beneath him was damp, cool, grounding. He reached the far edge of the property where a small pond reflected the pale sky. He crouched down, picking up a smooth pebble, turning it in his fingers. Its surface was cold, solid, real. He threw it gently into the water and watched the ripples spread outward, widening, softening, disappearing. He smiled faintly. That was how healing looked. Not sudden, not cinematic. Just one small ripple at a time. When he returned to the inn, he found an envelope slid under his door. It was from Ryan. Inside was a single note. I don't expect us to fix everything, but I hope someday we can talk. Thank you for coming. It meant more than I can say. Noah folded it carefully and placed it in his wallet. Not as a keepsake, but as a quiet acknowledgement that not all endings needed erasing. Some could just rest. By late autumn, Noah returned to the city and settled into a quiet apartment by the lake, where sunlight and silence became his closest companions. He spent his days sketching the play of light, on water, on walls, learning to see beauty in the ordinary again. Forgiveness no longer felt like a grand gesture. It became a quiet acceptance, the simple act of not hurting when memory brushed against him. Lena visited sometimes, and together they shared easy silences. When she turned the old figurine on his windowsill so it caught the light, its glow painted the wall in soft gold, reminding him that even small, forgotten things could still be beautiful. That night, Noah wrote that peace wasn't always forgiveness. Sometimes, it was just a moment you stopped rehearsing your pain. As dusk fell and music drifted from across the street, he smiled, realizing that healing didn't need an ending. It just needed light and a little room to breathe,